things first is you want to make sure that you have the correct setup. You can do it from your dining room table chair. You can use your sofa. You can also get a bench. My bench is from Brett Contreras. He's actually the guy who created the hip thrust. And so he created this home version, which is called the Thruster Lite, which I love because it's like the perfect height for the hip thrust. And I'm telling you, it really matters. Now, say if you're using, as you can see, the sofa is higher than the bench. So if you are doing a hip thrust from your sofa, you could kind of get a stepper. That way you can even yourself out. Alrighty, so when it comes to the hip thrust, first things first, you want to make sure that after the setup is correct, you want to make sure that underneath your shoulder blades are lined up to your bench. Okay, so my shoulder blades are here and the bench pretty much comes right underneath my shoulder blades. All right, and so now I'm going to set up my body for the hip thrust. I usually like to spread my feet apart. I like to point my toes out, and then I kind of like to come in the position of the hip thrust to kind of get my feet into the position that they need to be. All right, so you got to play around with this exercise. So my feet are my toes are pointed out, my heels are kind of moved in, right? And now I'm just making sure that the range of motion is perfect, that I can execute the move correctly. All right, so the way you do the move is, all right, your body's going to be in this position. All right, you are going to drive your heels up, right? And as you're driving your heels up, you are squeezing your glutes. All right, when you get to the top, I love to do like a little butt scoop. You see, I kind of do a posterior tilt and think of it like a butt scoop. All right, that butt scoop is going to give you that boom. Okay, so I'm just going to do it a couple of times and then, all right, so squeeze, go back down, squeeze to come up. All right, so you want to make sure that when you're doing this move here, right, you're not overextending your back. All right, so when you come up on the hip thrust, right, you're squeezing your glutes and driving your hips up, right? Make sure your eye contact is straight and your chin gets tucked in. Okay, so right, my eyes stay at the same level, and when I bring my lower body up, when I drive my heels up, my eyes stay at the same level and my chin pretty much gets tucked in. All right, squeeze, make sure you do that butt scoop, squeeze, butt scoop. Right, you can always pause at the top to make sure that you're giving yourself that butt scoop. Okay, and another tip that I want to give you when it comes to the hip thrust. All right, let's see. All right, so you want to make sure that you're looking straight, your chin is tucked in. Don't overextend. If your chin and you're looking correctly and your chin is tucked in, it's going to be hard for you to overextend. All right, this is what it looks like when you overextend. So, see? Now my butt is not even, like, yeah, I feel it in my butt, but now I'm starting to feel it in my back, and you don't want to feel it in your back, especially when you start to go heavy in this exercise, when you start lifting up those heavy weights. You definitely don't want to overextend because you will literally injure your back, and then that will take you out of the game for a couple of days, and that means no more hip thrusts, and that means you're not growing your booty. Oh no. So make sure you do not overextend. All right, so yes, and so basically I want you to also pay attention to my torso, right? Notice that when I'm coming up, right, I'm not bringing my whole body up, right? My shoulder blades are staying pressed against this this pad, all right, the bench, right? I'm keeping my gaze straight, right? And all I'm doing is just driving those hips up. Boom, right? It's fully extended. Your legs will make a right angle. They should make a perfect right angle, right? You're squeezing, okay? You're going back down, all right? One more point, all right? When it comes to doing the hip thrust, right? That's why you got to practice this move, because there's a lot of things that you have to incorporate, and you're not going to always execute it the first time you try it. It's going to take you a couple of reps to make sure that you're hitting all those points. So that's why, honestly, you practice it, and that's why I'm giving you this video at home, because it's going to take time to practice this move and making sure that you're doing it correctly. And sometimes you know, if you don't have time for that in the gym, you're literally going to be wasting valuable time on trying to make sure that you're doing the move correctly instead of doing your sets and your reps. And guess what? You're not going to feel successful. So practice this shit at home, okay? Yes, I curse. Practice this move at home so that way you're making sure that you're doing it correctly. No weights, no resistance bands. Just make sure that you're doing the move correctly. None of the weights and stuff will work if you're not doing the move correctly. If you are doing the move correctly, you won't even need to add weights or resistance just yet, because your glutes are getting fired up immediately. Hence, you're going to see that plump. All right? So, back to the hip thrust. When it comes to breathing, right, with the hip thrust, right, before you begin your hip thrust, before you take off, you inhale. As soon as you get to the top, you let it out. Inhale, exhale, right? And exhaling kind of makes sure, right? Exhaling sucks in your stomach, right? And make sure that your torso is straight. You're getting into that, you're getting that 90-degree angle, okay? So inhale, and as you're coming up, you exhale, and you do it again. When you are breathing correctly, and please do breathe correctly, your body is going to be able to do more of the exercise correctly. Breathing helps you like get through the exercise, so make sure that you're breathing correctly. Okay, so I went over a lot of tips. Let me just make sure we get to some key points. So key point number 1, make sure your setup is correct. Make sure your shoulder blades are underneath the pad or the bench or the chair that you are using. Step 2, you want to make sure your feet are correctly aligned. Once your back is lined up correctly with the bench or the chair, you just want to bring your hips up to fix your feet to fix your legs to be at a right angle. You want to make sure that when you come up, you feel it in your glutes before you actually perform the exercise, adding any weights. Once your setup is correctly, now you're ready to, you can either add a resistance band, you can add your barbell, you can add a dumbbell. The dumbbell can go here, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, and you place it here. Make sure that your eyes are straight. Stay focused on that area. Inhale. Chin is tucked in. Gaze is straight. I have already had exhaled, and now I'm about to go back down. And there you have it, my girls, my lovely ladies, my lovely women, the hip thrust at home. Alrighty, so yes, when you're doing the hip thrust at home and you feel like you got the move down packed, now you want to add some resistance bands, so that way, oh my God, as soon as you're done with this exercise and you see that booty bigger, I want you to immediately comment in the comment box and let me know, like, D, this really, really worked. I'm not kidding, it really, really works. All right, so you add your resistance band, right? You want to add it to the top of your knees. Now, when it comes to and I like to add cotton resistant bands because the resistance is stronger. But with that being said, you have to be mindful because now your knees are ready to buckle in because the resistance is strong. Keep those knees strong, girl, right? Megan Stallion knees, okay? Strong, all right? Your feet are coming out, same setup, right? And now I'm really pressing my heels into the ground because this resistant band is tight. And if my grip on my feet is not strong enough, my knees will cave in and I won't do the exercise correctly. All right, so I got my resistant band, my feet are correct, bench is set up, gaze is straight, and I'm ready to execute. Drive those hips up, woo, and I already feel the tightness, okay? Make sure you're doing that butt scoop, okay? Inhale. Oh my goodness, I'm already like exhausted.